Dude eats a lot. Talk about the munchies. You know how some just have a look to them like they're high all the time? That's KD. He'd probably be around Wiz Khalifa like 24/7, 420. Hey, what's going on? My name's Alex Burleson, and I'm just a basketball nerd, and I'm here to start a new podcast called The Seventh Man Pod. And so, the reason I'm calling it The Seventh Man Pod is because I had a previous show called The Sixth Man Show, and now I'm starting back up bigger and better. Usually everybody talks about the sixth man off the bench. Like, do they have any value? Let me tell you, they do. Guys like Malik Monk usually comes off the bench. They're the sixth man. Guys like Naz Reid from last season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But nobody ever really talks about the seventh man. But I'm here to give the seventh man his due, his respect, his honor. That's why I'm calling this podcast The Seventh Man Up. And now coming back, I'm like, all right, let's change up the name. Instead of sixth man, seventh man. And lastly, to why I chose the name seventh man, just to be upfront, I'm a Christian, and the number 7 is a holy number, meaning rest, meaning completion. I try to put faith into everything I do, and you'll see it here with this podcast. Now, I want to explain what I'm going to talk about on the podcast coming up. Everything can't just be serious like news. I'm going to bring some fun to it. We're going to talk about NBA stuff, my thoughts, my opinions on it, but I'm going to try to bring a little bit of comedic twist with it, so get on for the ride. Let's get into some stories. The first episode I'm calling this is What the Wow. As of late, a lot of crazy NBA stories been happening. I want to talk about the Detroit Pistons. Detroit basketball. I love that. But this year, they're really surprising the league compared to last year when they were probably the worst team in the league. Well, they were the past 2 years. But this year, like Cade Cunningham is really looking nice. Before the gruesome injury, Jaden Ivey was having a good year. And I like Jaden Ivey. I think he's going to be a good player even when he comes back from this injury. I want to know what you guys think. And talking more about the Pistons, I don't know if you guys caught the game the other day. They were playing the Chicago Bulls, and they just whooped their butt. I checked the score, and at one point, they were up by 51 points. Yes, 51 points. They just, destroyed the Bulls, made them look silly, just embarrassed the crap out of them. They pulled a Jeffrey Dahmer on their heads. Bulls looked like a team full of Michael Ruffins, Ben McLemores, and Adam Morrisons. As you can tell, I named NBA busts, just not good players. Moving on from that, I want to talk about Kevin Durant. I'm a fan of Kevin Durant. I keep up with not just my team, which is the Sacramento Kings. We'll get into that later on. But I'm a fan of the stars of the game. Kevin Durant, LeBron James. I'm a big LeBron fan. Kyrie Irving. The one star, though, I can't stand is Trae Young. I don't know what you guys think, but Trae Young, to me, he's just an arrogant player. To me, he's just a Steph Curry wannabe. Talking about Kevin Durant, some exciting news for him. He finally reached 30,000 points for his NBA career. Dude is just a pure scorer, probably the purest scorer I have ever seen. I remember his rookie year when he couldn't even bench 185. Dude was scrawny as heck and still is. KD must have a high metabolism to be a professional hooper and a professional stoner. Dude eats a lot. Talk about the munchies. You know how some just have a look to them like they're high all the time? That's KD. He'd probably be around Wiz Khalifa like 24/7, 420. We're a few weeks past the big trade that went down. De'Aaron Fox traded to the Spurs, and the Kings got Zach LaVine. Him and Sabonis will be good together for the foreseeable future. Lots of alley-oop passes. Sabonis to LaVine. To any team, I'm happy it was the Spurs that De'Aaron Fox was traded to. because the Spurs, they're a respected franchise that players want to go to and want to be drafted by. One thing I can't stand is this so-called conspiracy against the Kings, that the NBA has something against the Kings to never give them obvious calls in almost every game. The free throw discrepancy is so lopsided. Just a few games ago for the Spurs, Aaron Fox had 18 free throw attempts, when if he was still with the Kings, he would probably only have like 8 attempts. Do you see what I'm saying there? Not with the Kings, he gets more free throws. With the Kings, he gets less free throws. NBA, I got a message for you. Make it make sense. Every team can't pull off an Orlando Magic on the refs. Maybe the Warriors from a few years ago can. And you just mentioned me calling beating the refs in Orlando Magic. Little backstory with that. I'm probably the only one that calls it pulling off an Orlando Magic. So, story behind that is finals matchup was the LA Lakers against the Orlando Magic. And through the whole Eastern Conference playoffs, the Cavaliers were just ripping through the first and second round. And then came the third round with the Orlando Magic. And the Orlando Magic, they were ahead of the league with their game. They were a team that had knockdown shooters, and each player had a very high percentage to them. They had guys like Hedo Turkoglu, Mikael Pietrus, Courtney Lee was part of that team. The Orlando Magic would have won that series if it wasn't for that missed Courtney Lee tip. Moving on, all throughout the league that year, you can tell the NBA, for ratings-wise, they wanted a Kobe LeBron finals. I would have watched that. I think that would have been fun. That would have been really fun. So just going on here, basically the Orlando Magic, they were hitting their shots. And when you hit your shots like that, it's hard for the refs to rig the game in the other team's favor. Now, that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That's why I call it in Orlando Magic when teams clearly are beating the refs with making their shots. Speaking of refs, know who crooked refs like Scott Foster, Tom Washington remind me of? Is Satan trying to tempt Jesus in the wilderness. Remember that? There's a portion in the Bible, New Testament, where after Jesus gets baptized by John the Baptist, he is led into the wilderness for 40 days. And during that period, he is tempted by Satan. He's ultimately trying to get Jesus to fail and give in to temptation. Crooked refs like those from above try to get players to fall and try to tempt them into technicals and frustration coming out. A few players, the very well-known Rasheed Wallace. You got DeMarcus Cousins from back in the day. Now, I know that all too well, knowing that I'm a Kings fan. I just want to end with some encouragement here. So my encouragement to you is to look to pull off an Orlando Magic in your life. Enemy will try to get at you, but when in Christ, he does not have you. Picture this. Just like the Orlando Magic were hitting their threes, making it dang near impossible for the refs to rig the game. When you're in prayer, when you're reading the word every day, when you have those tight-knit people around you, keeping you in check, keeping you accountable, even people that will speak into your life. That's a form of pulling off an Orlando Magic spiritually. Remember to show out with them threes up. Love, joy, and peace. See ya. All right, real quick. If you like this podcast, let me know. I'm going to be rolling out more episodes. All right, again, peace.